presiding over the public hearing this evening, and with me tonight is another one of the rate commissioners, Mark Perkins. The charter plan of the district was amended by voters in St. Louis City and County at a general election on November 7th, 2000, and established the rate commission. The purpose of the rate commission is to review and make recommendations to MSD's Board of Trustees regarding changes in wastewater rates, stormwater rates, and tax rates proposed by MSD staff. The rate commission seeks to ensure MSD ratepayers and the public in general have a voice in MSD's rate setting process. Per the charter plan, the rate commission is composed of 15-member organizations who collectively represent the broadest possible cross-section of MSD customers and the community it serves. Rate commission member organizations are selected by MSD's Board of Trustees through a public self-nomination and selection process set forth in the charter. Each member organization serves a 6-year term and appoints an individual to represent the organization on the rate commission. Per the voter-approved changes made to MSD's charter in 2000, the Board of Trustees shall select member organizations, quote, so as to ensure a fair representation of all users of the district services. Specifically, the rate commission member organizations, quote, shall represent commercial industrial users, residential users, and other organizations interested in the operation of the district, including, by way of example, but not by way of limitation, organizations focusing on environmental issues, labor issues, socioeconomic issues, community neighborhood organizations, and other nonprofit organizations, close quote. For a list of individual rate commissioners and the organizations they represent, please visit the Rate Commission's section of MSD's website at www.msdprojectclear.org. The Rate Commission received a rate change notice from MSD staff on March 24th, 2023 for wastewater rates and stormwater rates and taxes. Per the charter plan, the Rate Commission must issue its report on the proposed rate change notice to MSD's Board of Trustees on or before September 5th, 2023. The Rate Commission adopted operational rules and a procedural schedule to conduct its proceedings in a timely manner and with procedural fairness to all parties. Since the rate change notice was received on March 24th, 2023, the Rate Commission has received testimony from MSD staff and the rate consultants employed by the Rate Commission to evaluate the MSD staff proposal. The parties have also engaged in discovery requests. Documentation of these activities is listed on the Rate Commission section of MSD's website at www.msdprojectclear.org. Tonight's public hearing is one of 14 planned on-the-record sessions that will be conducted from June 21st, 2023 through August 7th, 2023. Any ratepayer who wishes to be heard on the proposed rate change may testify or participate in the public hearing sessions. These public hearings are publicly noticed via postings to the Rate Commission section of MSD's website at www.msdprojectclear.org. These postings contain the time, date, and location of each of the public hearings. As hearings are added to the schedule, the same information will be posted. Public hearings are held for the purpose of permitting MSD staff to present its wastewater and stormwater rate change proposal to the general public and to permit said public the opportunity to ask questions and or make comments. Those unable to or not wishing to provide comments at a public hearing may provide feedback to the Rate Commission via phone or email. The phone number is 314-335-2028. 335-2028. The email address is Rate Commission, all one word, Rate Commission at ahcconsulting.com. Rate Commission at ahcconsulting.com. A card with contact information is available at the sign-in area. Alternatively, staff representing the Rate Commission, who I will ask to identify themselves shortly, will also be able to provide that information. Further information on how to provide feedback outside of the public hearings is listed on the Rate Commission section of the website at www.msdprojectclear.org. Our next step tonight is a presentation by MSD staff, followed by a public comment period. Tonight's presenter is Brian Holscher, MSD's CEO and Executive Director. As the presiding commissioner of tonight's meeting, I ask that everyone hold their questions until the comment period at the end of the presentation. Those wishing to speak should sign in at the sign-up area. Speakers will be called in the order they have signed up. And then each speaker should identify themselves and any organizations they represent. Several housekeeping rules before we begin. If you wish to present testimony or expect you may have questions or comments, please sign in at the door by which you entered the room. Again, the speakers will be recognized in the order in which they sign up. And while not a requirement, we ask that those who are speaking please state their name and address so we can assure that we are associating the comments on the record with the correct speakers. And if you are representing an organization, please provide any information about the organization. If speakers wish to remain anonymous, in whole or part, we also certainly respect those wishes. Each speaker will have a maximum of 10 minutes to speak regarding the proposed rate change, and as a presiding officer, I can limit or expand any speaking time as deemed necessary. If you have not already done so, please put your cell phone on silent or off. And if you have any further questions regarding restroom facilities or any other logistics, staff representing the Rate Commission, and I'll ask for those staff to raise their hands now. Those staff people representing the Rate Commission are available to answer any of those other logistical questions. Are there any other questions from anyone regarding the procedure for this evening? I'll ask Mr. Holscher to begin with his presentation. Mr. Holscher, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Tennis. I'm Brian Holscher, I'm the Executive Director and CEO at MSD. Tonight's presentation, I'm going to spend a little time explaining what MSD does. It's a large entity, not everybody touches every piece of it, but this particular rate proposal does touch every service that we happen to provide. So I'm going to give a little background, and then I'll dive into what exactly is being proposed. It's a tale of two systems. So we do have a wastewater system and a stormwater system. They're completely separated, and they collect their own revenues, and can only do the work based on the revenues they collect. So we don't take wastewater money to do stormwater work, or stormwater work to do wastewater, or stormwater revenues to do wastewater work. We come to the rate commission usually every 4 years. Mr. Ten just explained what that looks like. What you're gonna see is the 2023 rate proposal, and it's gonna cover our proposed program and proposed rates from our 2025 through 2028 for that 4-year period. One more, Lance, if you would. Thank you. Okay, MSD's Project Clear protects the public's health and safety and water environment by managing the programs with separate funding sources, one for stormwater, one for wastewater. As the region's management problems change, funding differences are causing a divergence between these two programs. One for the better, that's on the wastewater side, and there is something that we've been trying to resolve on the revenue side for the stormwater. We're coming back again for that, and you'll hear that described. Current services on the wastewater system, we clean and repair the existing wastewater system. We take care of wastewater from the minute it leaves your lateral coming out of your home or business. We collect it, transport it, pump it, treat it, and discharge it to local creeks and streams. We are in the middle of complying with all environmental regulations. We're in the middle of what's called a consent decree, like over 200 large communities throughout the United States who are trying to meet the Clean Water Act. At a certain point in the 2000s, the federal government decided we want to sue every one of them to give them an exact schedule when they need to come in compliance with the Clean Water Act. You'll find that is the primary driver with almost all the work we do on the wastewater side. And you'll see major new improvements, and that's a big part of what's in the proposal. There are changes to the system that have to be done in order to bring them into compliance. On the stormwater side, there's a couple things. Clean and repair storm sewers. We actually did not have the ability to clean and repair just the storm sewers and inlets until 2016, when the public voted those in. We could, and Coeur is a great place for an example. Everything on the east half of Coeur, the storm sewers and inlets, we could operate and maintain. On the west side, when MSD was given that responsibility, we were given no revenue, so we couldn't fix inlets, we couldn't clean storm sewers. That got taken care of in 2016 with the property tax that the public approved. The final one is funding for new improvements, and this is to address things like flooding and erosion that don't involve the public storm sewer system. We tried to do this. We tried in 2008. Supreme Court found that proposal to be inappropriate. 2019, we came to the rate commission process. The public voted no to have us provide funding for that. We continuously hear from the public. We're going to try again. We made some changes to the program based on some successes we've seen through other parts of the program and what we've heard from the public. So what are the wastewater system improvements? So right now, the value of the consent decree is $7.2 million on the wastewater side in 2023 dollars. It hasn't increased in cost. We've always just made sure we priced it to the current year. So in 2011, it was $4.7 million. 2021, it was 4.7 billion. 2021, it was 6.1 billion. And then with what happened over the last 2 years, we repriced it for this rate proposal, and it's now valued at $7.2 billion. But we are on schedule, and we are on budget for completing the work. The whole idea is to reduce basement backups in homes and overflows that go into the environment. In a lot of places, there are little pipes that are sticking out of manholes. When we inherited the system, instead of having basements backed up, they would dump the wastewater into the creeks. We're taking care of those. That will improve water quality and also keep us in compliance with the Clean Water Act. There's some things we do. First of all, we increase the system, the capacity of the system to take care of surges that come through the system. Removing water that wasn't in the system. Some of you may have participated in. St. Louis, unfortunately, had a lot of places where the downspouts from the homes were connected to the wastewater system. It was causing major backups and major water backups. We went through and tried to repair all those. So the point was to get stormwater out of entering the wastewater system. And then also eliminate points where the untreated water spills into rivers and streams. Again, those are those overflow points I was talking about that were put in some as long as 100 years ago. The progress we made on the wastewater system so far, those separate system wastewater overflows, those points in the system used to discharge creeks, we've eliminated 84% of those. We're on the schedule that the EPA has set for us to get that done. Building backups are down 25%. probably even more so than that. When we have a normal storm that used to cause MSD a lot of problems, we see nothing. So that's worked really well to get the system clean, get it up to speed, and make sure it can do its job. And for everything else, there's still some projects required. We have completed or started 650 projects since we started the consent decree in 2012. Stormwater looks a little bit different. We collect stormwater problems or understand what they are from the public. We are a regulator on the stormwater side as well. So whenever we hear of a stormwater problem, we log it. We know it's there, we want to be aware it's there. The numbers continue increasing. That's kind of the way stormwater is. So you see on the chart the numbers as to how many reported stormwater problems we have. Recently they've gone up because of climate change. We are seeing things we never saw before. In the last 10 years at least, we had about 4 years of major river flooding, if I can remember that, the Mississippi River, the Merrimack River. That was followed by spot areas within our district experiencing 500-year storms. Huge storms, beyond capacity, either natural or artificial infrastructure. And culminating last summer and hitting the entire area at least twice in 500-year storm. So there's a lot of existing problems out there. There were problems before we had the storms last summer, and the storms last summer revealed some more needs that are out there, something that hopefully MSD can help participate in. They fall in two general categories. Now, from what I just described, this is a pretty small stormwater problem. This is kind of one of those backyard issues we have where no infrastructure is put in place, things are held up, and we can solve those types of problems if we get the revenue source. Another one is creek erosion. That's the biggest one. So it's not necessarily the flooding, but that amount of water going through the creeks is eroding creeks and banks, and sometimes people are losing homes. We have the ability, if this passes, to start addressing those issues district-wide as well. I won't go through this. You can see it. We've identified the improvements by area. These are for stormwater. So if you take a look at the number, pink area, there's 264, and you see different numbers everywhere. I would caution you a little bit because of some local taxes. That pink area, which has the most stormwater problems, also had some small taxing revenues. So we're able to do some work. If we can do a little work, that generates people to call us with problems. In the areas where we have no money at all, they call a couple times and then they stop because we just say we don't have any money. So as this gets forward, I'm sure we're going to find even more problems we have shown here on the chart. Really quick about the Rate Commission. I'm not going to go over what Len said, but again, it's independent rate commission, 15 organizations. The purpose is to receive public input on the rate proposal, the rate that MSD staff has put together, and he's giving you, and one more time, you get to see the website where you can go and see all the information. The timeline for the Rate Commission, in 2022, MSD staff, the summer of 2022, we started putting this rate proposal together. So then if you pick up what's up on the chart on the screen, from March to September, we delivered the rate proposal to our MSD staff, delivered to the Rate Commission. From March to September, as Mr. Ten just said, they will evaluate that proposal. They will take their evaluation, they will then forward it to our Board of Trustees. They'll take a look for the first time at the proposal we put and some of the ideas and thoughts from the Rate Commission, and they'll evaluate that and decide how to proceed. There will invariably be a vote. So for both of these proposals, there's two things. There's a wastewater side, which is doing court-mandated work. How would the public like to pay for it? And the question is whether or not we should borrow some money or just pay for it as we go. The other part is the stormwater service to address, which we never have district-wide, flooding and erosion. The question that will come up in April April 2024 is, do you want MSD to have funding to help solve that problem? Pretty simple question is, if you do, you would vote yes. If you don't want MSD to participate, vote no. And that's what it would look like. Prior to that, MSD staff in 2024 will be doing a lot of work out in the public explaining. We're not going to advocate for one or the other, but we will let you know if you vote yes, this is what happens. If you vote no, this is what happens. And we'll do a lot of outreach at that time once the Rate Commission has completed their work. If it's successful, there's two schedules. Again, the wastewater program will keep going. We will fall under the new rate proposal in July of 2024 for the wastewater system. And we'll have new rates set, whether they're through bonded rates or pay-go rates. And if the stormwater system passes, whatever small stormwater pieces we have will stay in place through the end of calendar 2024 if this passes. And then we'll start all the rate collection process, whether it's through residential or non-residential properties, will occur for the first time in calendar year 2025, assuming that passes. The rate proposals. So we're going to do stormwater first. What we're doing is, again, we're addressing flooding and erosion, something we cannot do district-wide right now. One of the ways we wanted to make sure we were equitable between residential and non-residential properties is we calculated what is the impervious area, the areas where water really runs out. So it turned out that 57% of the impervious area is on residential properties, 43% is on non-residential. So we divided up the revenue that we collected between those two classes of ratepayers, so there was equity between those two classes. We were collecting from those based on the amount that they would generate. In the proposal for the residential customer, what we're doing is we're proposing for the median customer, which in the St. Louis area is a home valued at $176,000, we're proposing a property tax in our service area of $2.08 per month for the median property owner. That comes to about $25 per year. Where that comes from is polling of the public. If we want, based on the polling, 50% of the public to vote yes for this, $2 is kind of the cutoff. So there was no point in going higher. We want to collect as much money as we can to be able to do something, but that's where we came with the $2 per year, per month for the median household in order to move forward. The non-residential customers, again, I showed you how we divided up the revenue source. The non-residential customers, these include the not-for-profit non-residential customers. Every month they will pay $1.05 per 1,000 square feet of impervious area on their property. Parking lot, rooftops, sidewalks, anything that's a hard surface that the water doesn't soak in and runs off. We will map that by aerial photography, and they'll be billed on a monthly basis. That funding will generate about $34 million per year, and again, it is really driven by what the public has told us they're willing to spend, at least to get the program started. Right now, we've identified about $700 million worth of issues, and that was before last summer's floods and last summer's storms. I will tell you, I think it's very important why we put this proposal together. We need to get something started so people can see the benefit of getting the program going. The way we spend it, and this came from a lot of input, is how are we going to spend the $34 million? 50% of it is going to be spent based on a benefit cost analysis. And MSD will take every problem it knows, add up all the benefits, we put a point value on things like if your house is threatened, or if your garage is threatened, or your swimming pool is threatened. Then we divide it by the cost to do the job, and whichever one ranks best, we simply work our way down the list. We've done that in small taxing districts. It's a very fair way to determine who goes first. 50% of the revenues will be spent towards that program. 30% of the revenues are going to go towards direct grants to the cities to solve whatever stormwater problem they think is the most important. And those monies will be divided up amongst those individual municipalities. Our proposal is to do it based on population. It's a common way in the state of Missouri for this type of thing to happen, and we felt it was appropriate to follow through with that. Another 10%, and I'm going to use the federal term environmental justice because MSD participates both through the state and the federal government. State doesn't use that term, but I'm going to use it just for consistency so I don't mess up here. So there are environmental justice areas that are identified by the state within our service area, underserved areas, traditionally underserved areas. We're going to say take 10% of those funds, identify projects just in the environmental justice area, and rank those, and have a special pot sitting back by sitting there so we can do projects for those folks who have traditionally been underserved for a lot of reasons, or in a lot of ways. And then finally, and this came up, and I think it's a really good idea for public input, 10% of the dollars is going to go into let's figure out what we want to do pot. So So we're gonna collect 10% of it. Right now, we're thinking we're gonna use somebody like the municipal league and say, okay, let's get together. What's not covered under this program? What's really important? Where is there really a regional type policy issue we need to address? And just because it occurred, it may be that, hey, let's buy people out of floodplains for 2 years based on what happened this past summer. That could be a decision. But the idea is for the public to go and see what the rest of the program looks like, get the public together, public leaders together, elected officials if we use the municipal league, and say, okay, for this year, what do we want to do with that extra pot of money? Where can we make the best difference on something that maybe we're not touching with the rest of the program? Going to the wastewater rate proposal, again, we're in the middle of doing the consent decree. It's a 28-year-long consent decree. We started in 2011. It will end in 2039. It lasts for quite a while. Again, currently valued at $7.2 billion. By the end of this year, we will have completed just about half of that, $3.1 billion. There's another $1.7 billion in this rate proposal. That puts us more than halfway across the finish line. And we'll have $2.4 billion worth of work left to go. What we're going to ask the voters is, how do you want to pay for this? And I'll give you the data here in a minute. But the question is going to be, we can either get authority to borrow an additional $700 million of bonds to help pay for the program moving forward. That's like borrowing money for your house. Don't pay cash for a car. I'm going to go ahead and get a loan. Costs less right now, but you've got interest and stuff to pay in the future. But it's up to the residents, the voters. If the voters say, no, we don't want you to borrow money, we'll also have another provision. Remember, there's a court-mandated program. You vote no, and there is a pay-go option, where we just simply collect the cash now, pay cash for everything. That has the downside of rates being much higher in the beginning, but then you don't have the debt service further on. So we'll lay that out and we'll put that in front of the voters as to what they think is the best way to pay for the program. And here is, on the wastewater side, here's what the numbers look like. So right now, the average typical customer at MSD pays $57.04 per month for a wastewater bill. Yours may be different, may be lower, may be higher, especially out in the county. Your bill is based on how much potable water you use during the winter. So everybody's getting a different bill based on our estimate of what's going down the sewers. But for the average residential customer, the first year above 7% up to $61.04. The next year 7.6% to $65.66. Then 7.5% and 6.6%, ending at $75.23 per month for the average customer if the public votes to allow additional bonding authority. The public has the right to say we don't want to borrow any more money. If they do, what you'll see happen is what you see on the right-hand side. Again, right now we're at $57.04, and because the program is going, we need to collect money to pay for things right away. You see some very large spikes at the beginning of 35%, 35%. It lowers 20% on the third year, and then kicks back up to 5%, but lands at $87.72 for the typical customer. It's up to the voters to decide which way you want to plan for this program for the next 4 years. I think the last thing before the questions, we do this traditionally every 4 years. It gives us a couple things. One, we know we want to check in with the Rate Commission every 4 years, say here's how we've done. Typically, except for this year, we've done well enough and we've saved enough money, we can take some of what's left over and it simply gets put into lowering rates on the front end of the next proposal. So we do this and we meet every 4 years. Sometimes we have a stormwater component. This stormwater component you're seeing is the last stormwater service that is unfunded for MSD. So we're coming back again and seeing the public, based on public input, they asked us to give it another shot. And that's why you're seeing two parts of this proposal, one wastewater and one stormwater. Mr. Chairman, I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Holscher. Did anybody sign up outside for any questions?
No, they just signed in, so I would recommend asking if anybody does have a question.
All right, well, let's ask anyone then who has questions, either for myself or for Mr. Holscher, to just stand and identify yourself, and we will do our level best to answer the questions. Or, if you don't have questions, here are your comments. Yes, please.
So really, the best thing is the localist to save us money, correct?
I will say that is your choice. That's up to each individual voter. You saw the chart. Concerning
Yeah.
you do have two components, and I think it's up to each individual to decide, especially on the wastewater, which option looks best, and on the stormwater, that is a separate issue depending on if you want to allow MSD to have the resources to address stormwater or not.
Oh, excuse me, ma'am, can I get your name?
Huh?
Can I get your name?
Oh, Yolanda
On the last name?
Fountain Henderson.
Sure.
Are these slides available? Because the residents are gonna be asking me questions. These slides available?
I will ask our public relations folks if those slides are available or not.
The presentation just finalized today, we'll get that on the website within probably 24 hours of that.
Okay, all right, that's great.
I think those charts are also in a different format as presented to the rate commission, is on the rate commission's website also. It's gonna be much more convenient to go to their presentation.
I will say that on the website, there is a tremendous amount of detail, where all those numbers are there. I would, for those people who are engineers or math teachers, it's a great resource. For those people who want to understand it, these slides are a lot, more functional. So 24 hours?
Yes, within 24.
I forgot something today, very quickly. I apologize for this. I also want to let you, we have staff members here from MSD, raise your hands. So we know we're doing a rate proposal presentation. Oftentimes people have very specific questions about their property, something that's going on. We will stay as long as everybody will, wants us to. If you've got questions, please grab one of them, ask the question. If it's not really pertinent to this, or if it is, but if you have individual questions, get to those folks. We will be able to collect and see if we can answer or come back and get to you later. So we'll take care of that also if something's not being addressed here, okay, in the presentation.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Yeah, I have a question. MSD did some work on the street next to our subdivision, and the trucks were very heavy, filled with boulders when they broke up the street, and they came through our subdivision and damaged the street, and they never did come back and fix it, although they were by the residents notified of the damage, and that if they continually drove these trucks through the subdivision, which they did for many days, that they should be responsible for this.
Well, I will suggest that those MSD, see the gentleman in the black shirt there?
Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
If you can give him the specifics,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
So will the vote be just one question that includes both wastewater and stormwater, or will they be two separate questions?
They will have to be two separate questions. They are two separate issues, so it will be two separate ballot issues.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Oh, can I get your name?
Samantha Keevan, Keevan with a V. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Alistair Pringle, and I live at Creekside View Drive, which you can imagine is close to a creek.
Imagine.
No, imagine that. I will say that my first job that I got was in a sewage treatment plant, so I'm not unfamiliar with what you're talking about, and I actually teach environmental biology, and so I'm completely understand the things that you're doing, and completely on board with, I know how important it is to fix these issues. Nobody wants to pay for them. The only thing is there's a little headway, just recently the water rates went up 40%, as you well know. And, you know, our property taxes have gone up a lot. Everybody likes the fact that their house is worth more, but then when the bill arrives, then it's not so popular. So I just wonder if there's any way to, you know, 7% increase is a little, you know, may have a little headwind against it. If there's any way of moderating that, lengthening out the project so it's not quite as, it doesn't look quite as dramatic. But overall, I'm in favor of what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holster, you want to comment on that?
So, having to do with that, you're right, every time we come back every 4 years, the question is what else is going on? On the wastewater side, I'm not gonna really answer your question, but just so you know what it looks like. The next 4 years of the capital program on the wastewater side, 98% of it is mandated by either regulations or the consent decree. So we're not doing any optional work. We trimmed that down as much as we could. MSD does have a pretty robust program for those individuals whose income is less than twice the poverty level. We have a program where they pay just half the rate. And so we are tracking the affordability index which we used when we did the consent decree. We're still at we're a little ahead of where we thought we would be now. We're not reaching what EPA thinks is the limit of affordability. So while they're not willing to do massive changes, they have been very cooperative and let us making changes to reduce the cost of the program. They did give us previously a 5-year extension, having to do with regulations kind of coming up contrary to what we were seeing in the consent decree. So they've been pretty helpful with it. So we haven't just been sitting here and collecting money based on the original plan. We've been trying to reduce the cost best we can, but we are down to just doing exactly what we have to do. And we've kind of made that about, I agree with you. There's a lot of other things going on, but we are going to have to move forward in this particular case with this one, based on MSD's opinion.
And thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. Any other comments? Questions? I just have one comment. I think I really, truly appreciate everyone who showed up here this evening. This is not on the script, but this is an issue that impacts everybody in the community and everybody in the region, and you are the heroes for being here this evening to learn about it and get engaged. We really appreciate every one of the 15 rate commissioners who's volunteering all their time to try to represent their different constituencies and folks who are here. So thank you all very much for being here this evening to learn about it. If you get home and you think, doggone it, I wish I would have asked such and such. You got the phone number on the card, you know the email. Please share any other questions or comments you have with someone else, and your family has a question or comment. Share it. The rate commissioners are only as good as the public feedback that we receive. So thanks very much for your questions and learning about it. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Could I just throw one more comment
Please.
in? You know, I don't think this was very well publicized. I did pick it up from the TV news tonight. That's why I came over. And I looked on Creve's website, and it's not listed as a meeting on there. You know, which is the place
Right.
that, since I live in Creve. So I think just maybe if you made sure that it was better publicized, that would help. You know, we're not all going to the MSD site
Sure.
you know, for our news. Yeah.
Our public relations consultants are here and hearing that, so it's a challenge to reach folks. You're exactly right. So we'll continue for the rest of the remaining 10 to get the word out. The next hearing is tomorrow, June 22nd, at 6 p.m. in the city of Brentwood's council chambers at Brentwood City Hall. Brentwood City Hall is at 2348 South Brentwood Boulevard in Brentwood, Missouri, 63144. And a series of the other hearings are on the card. Anything else? We will adjourn the public hearing, and thanks everyone for being here.